Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. What a fantastic venue to talk about enterprise transformation. Lots of drama in this room. My name is John Brigden. I'm General Manager of AWS Managed Services. We're part of AWS Customer Enablement Services, and that includes our training and certification team, our ProServe team, enterprise support, AWS IQ, and of course our wonderful partners, expansive network of certified partners. And we're all here to help you, our customers, transform your businesses. We have deep subject matter expertise and capabilities, and our goal is to try to help you focus on your differentiated outcomes in business in this transformation, and let us help you offload the important but undifferentiated aspects of that work. With me today are two of our customers, Steve Day from National Australia Bank, one of the top 20 financial services companies in the world today. He's going to talk about their two-year journey, transformational journey, and talk about their culture of innovation that he's setting up there. And Simon Hornby is going to join us from Thomson Reuters, one of the leading global media and information companies in the world today, actually established in 1851, and they're now on an accelerated transformation in the face of data center eviction. So we got a lot to talk about today, so let's get started. Digital transformation has never been more critical than it is today. The risk of disruption is increasing at an incredible pace. There was a recent study that came out from Innosight that said that the global S&P 500 public companies had a lifespan of 33 years that is in rapid decline, and by 2027 is expected to be just 12 years. Think about that. Fortune 500 companies, 12-year lifespan. A recent McKinsey study found that 9 out of 10 companies agree that their industries, that their companies are in the process of being disrupted, and yet only 1 in 6 of them felt they had a bold enough strategy to be successful in that transformation. Now, we've been working with thousands of companies over the last 10 years, conducting their digital transformation and moving to the cloud. And we looked at the empirical data to try to understand what are these companies doing? What are some of the indicias of success as they make this transformation? And one of the things that we noticed is that what they're doing, at least the outcome of their impact, is that they're increasing the pace of change in their environment. They're increasing the pace in which they're iterating on their product or service. And they're doing that in very fundamental ways. First thing they're doing is they're moving from monolithic and large domain specialist functional organizations to smaller teams aligned by the customer outcomes that they're driving. They're moving from a waterfall approach and orchestrating complex organization structures to align on a project maybe 1 or 2 years down the road, and they're moving to an agile process. Effectively, what they're doing is they're managing their risk through minimizing change, and they're moving to adopting change and iteration at a rapid pace as a fundamental capability. You know, I've been in the technology business for, a long time, and I can remember sitting in a room in large companies, in enterprises, believing we were doing best practices, working on large functional teams on a project release that was a year or two out. We'd spend 30 to 40 to 50% of our time just orchestrating to make sure that we were all in sync with one another. Well, the world has changed. Some of the signs that we notice that companies that are successfully driving the transformation is that they're organized in loosely coupled teams, many more teams of much smaller size with cross-functional discipline and capabilities. As I mentioned, they're releasing their product at a much more rapid pace. They have a much faster lead time than before, moving from conception to deployment. They have a faster mean time to recovery on a major scale. Of course, automation is used throughout, and they have a 5x lower failure rate. If you look at Amazon.com, that's a good example of some of the progress that we've made at Amazon. Not too long ago, we were releasing new capabilities to our digital platform, maybe once a day. And we also had large teams set up functionally. Over the past 10 years, though, we've broken those teams down. We have now hundreds, if not thousands, of small teams aligned to their customer and their outcome, and they're pushing meaningful releases 15,000 times every day seamlessly with a much lower failure rate and a much better resiliency and availability. Now, as I mentioned, driving a digital transformation can be hard. You know, Andy mentioned in his keynote yesterday that you got to have executive support. You have to have a mandate. You're going to hear from a couple of our customers today, and you can really see the executive support and the mandate that they have. But there are challenges, even with a mandate, even with that support, right? Most companies today have a cloud-first strategy, right? 88% in this study. And yet, one of the challenges they have, they're burdened with enormous technical debt. Most of their budget, most of the work they're doing is keeping the lights on, KTLO. They've got legacy processes. They've got legacy ways of doing business, operating models, and it's getting in the way, and it can get in the way. And they're going to need help in dealing with that technical debt. We also hear, there's a study here from PwC, but I think it's pretty well known that skills can be, the people skills in organizations can be the biggest challenge to transformation. Getting the right skills, retaining the right skills, attracting the right skills, reskilling the people you need to help you drive that transformation. In addition to technical debt and getting the right skills, there's other challenges too. There's the challenge that the business is moving at an ever-fasting pace, keeping up with those business demands. You can't just skate to where the puck is. You got to skate to where the puck is going, right? So you've got to anticipate that the changes you're making as you move to the cloud and adopting new ways of working, that you're going to be able to accelerate and keep pace with that demanding pace from the lines of businesses. And lastly, operating models, right? The notion that you're going to be able to conform everything you do into one operating model and meet the needs of the business, it's not realistic. You're going to have to find ways to work in multiple operating models flexibly. It can't be the basis to say no to technology or disruption that you're going to need to be embracing to be successful. So as we thought about working with customers, it really comes down to two fundamental approaches that we think helps organizations move fast and successfully drive a digital transformation to the cloud. The first is really establishing a culture of innovation. Very intentional with the support, the alignment, the mandate, and driving that culture of innovation. The second is around getting started right now, modernizing that massive technical debt, those applications, in a way that builds speed and momentum and frees resources. That's the only way you're going to keep pace with this ever-accelerating motion. Getting started in a way and getting that flywheel going. We'll talk more about that. Let's dive into a culture of innovation. There's really three pillars to a culture of innovation. The first is around your people, of course, right? Transitioning to an organization where the people are wrapped around the work, okay? Secondly, it's around leveraging mechanisms. This is just a fancy word for a process, right? But it's intentional. It's an intentional mechanism designed to create a repeatable or consistent outcome that's aligned with the customer outcome you're driving. We'll talk more about mechanisms and processes. And lastly, it's about architecture. You know, reInvent is a great place to see all these cool new capabilities, and you can imagine how those are going to be used building new products and services. But what's equally important, or for many customers on transformation, I would argue more important, it's your architectural plan for moving your existing applications to the cloud so that you can modernize them in a thoughtful process that accelerates the momentum of your architecture and your ability to drive differentiation. If you do those three things well, we believe you'll be effective at driving that culture of innovation. When we think about the work in particular, one of the ways we do this at Amazon is we think about wrapping the people around the work, and we do that in small teams with cross-functional skills. We call these teams two pizza teams because it's basically the number of people that can be fed by two pizzas. Depending on the size of the pizza and the size of the people, that can vary, but roughly it's about 10 to 14 people that make up these two pizza teams. And the pizza teams are focused on very specific customer problems. They're working very scrappily, They are very independent. They're loosely coupled to other teams, and their job is to deliver customer success on the outcome that they own for that customer, whether it's an internal customer or an outside customer. Sallie Mae is a great example of a transformational success story. Sallie Mae is a financial services organization that just is in the middle of their transformation. They're completely out of their data centers in 6 months. And I think what they did best, when I look at that transformation, and I'm really excited about it, is that they were able to maintain focus on their differentiation from the start all the way through the process. They had actually outsourced their technology. They went through an insourcing and a transformation, which is hard to do. And the way they did that is they leveraged our customer enablement services. They leveraged ProServe. They leveraged AMS. They leveraged several of our partners in this transformation. When they migrated, they focused on making the fewest minimal changes to their application so they could capture the maximum amount of benefit in going to the cloud. But their goal was to get the applications to the cloud quickly and out of their data center and close their data center. They did that in 6 months. Once they got those applications to the cloud, they leveraged us to help them operate those applications safely and securely in the cloud, building automations and capabilities for patch and DR, while they then rotated to modernizing those applications, breaking them down into microservices. And now they're focused on AI and ML and introducing new products. When we think about mechanisms, as I was saying, it's all about reimagining your processes when you're going through your transformation, right? You're going to have to change those processes. Your old processes, bringing them forward, could hamper you and get in the way. So how do you do that? The way we think about processes and mechanisms is really tying them to the outcome. What process is going to help us create a repeatable and a consistent outcome? A good example, again, is what we call a working backwards process at Amazon. And we call this a PRFAQ, which stands for a press release and a frequently asked questions. And what that means is before anyone starts building anything at Amazon, before you're hiring an engineer or you're engaging anybody to start building anything, we've got to write a document. I've had to write several of these documents. And it's pretty intense. It's a lot of work. You've got to imagine the problem you're solving and write the press release as if you're announcing and releasing a product today. What problem are you solving? You have to answer a bunch of frequently asked questions to really explain how you're going to solve it. And sometimes you might not know, but you have to get specific enough so that it's real and you can articulate the specific benefit and the undifferentiated capability that you're going to create to address that problem. These things get heavily edited and revised, and it's a forcing function before any funding gets done and applied to a team. This works well for Amazon. There may be a similar type of process or mechanism you can use to create an intentional outcome on something that's key to your transformation. Key performance indicators are a good trigger mechanism for those processes. So again, tying processes to outputs or even inputs. Okay, so an output could be revenue, an output could be a customer satisfaction number, an input could be a customer adoption number, another performance indicator on the input. Triggering on these KPIs within certain thresholds to lead to processes to help you create a consistent and repeatable outcome in your business is a really key mechanism to successfully drive your transformation. Obviously, moving to an agile process is key. Most of our customers are doing that to take full leverage of the agility and elasticity of the benefits the cloud brings you. Now, there's a customer, Guardian Life Insurance, that I believe did this really, really well. You know, they started their transformation. They're a 150-year-old company. They're all in the cloud today. You know, they're now a deep technology company. But their focus was all on their people and their process, okay? How do they retrain and reskill and attract the right skills? And how do they put the right processes in place to make sure that they're shifting their mindset and how they're working in the cloud? You know, a lot of this is people and process, a lot. The technology stuff, believe it or not, is actually the easier side of the equation. And what Guardian did, which was really cool, they trained all of their developers deeply in the cloud. They then trained nearly half of their organization on Agile, over 2,500 people. They actually modernized their buildings and their facilities and created a really collaborative, open environment. Now they're all in the cloud. They're introducing new products and services. They're innovating. They think of themselves as a tech company in a lot of ways. They're competing in new ways of introducing new products, and they're able to attract new skills and capabilities they weren't able to do in the past. And they're starting to increase their pace of product and service release. So the last key to successfully driving a culture of innovation is architecture. And as I mentioned, I think you all agree with me that architecture is critical to building net new services and leveraging all the capabilities the cloud has to offer. The tricky piece to get right, in my opinion, is around how do you go about modernizing your applications today? How do you do that? How do you do that in an effective way? And one of the things that the cloud brings you is this unique capability is to get to the cloud, to start to operate in the cloud, and then to start to break down that problem and accelerate your modernization over time. So with that, I'd like to introduce Steve Day to join me out here from National Australia Bank to talk about their transformation journey. Welcome, Steve.
Thanks, John. Wow.
Thanks for coming. So Steve, tell us a little bit about NAB and what got you started on your journey.
Sure. So National Australia Bank, one of the big four banks in Australia, handles about 20% of the Australian economy. So very significant in terms of size, about 35,000 employees and about 160 years old. So a really embedded culture about the organisation.
That's great. And what were some of the problems that you guys were looking at originally as you started to think about the cloud?
Yeah, well, there was, I think it was bigger than the cloud. There was this whole concept of being relevant to our customers. Being a 150 or 160-year-old organisation, we didn't change much, right? We hung on to processes far too long. We didn't think ahead of the curve. And as our customers started to change, we realised we had to change too. So we had actually outsourced most of our operations about 10 to 20 years ago and lost all of our internal capability. So as the customer base started to move quickly to digital, we couldn't react. And we went from, over a period of only really 10 years, of every customer coming into the branch to do their transactions, to 2/3 of our customers never coming into the branch, to 98% of all of our transactions happening over digital channels, and just a complete shift in how we interacted with our customers. But we couldn't react quickly enough because we had sort of frozen ourselves in time with this very old outsourced model.
And what were some of the challenges, Steve, that you guys experienced on your transformation?
Yeah, well, I think number one was being able to be relevant, as I was mentioning, and be able to react quickly. So making us look, or making the problem look small to the team, whether it be migrating thousands of applications to the cloud, whether it be hiring literally thousands of people to replace our outsourced channels and bring talent back into the organisation, whether it be reorganising and moving into the service team model that we settled on, whether it be taking that old ITIL operational model and shifting it to DevOps. All of those things were massively difficult to comprehend to the team. It was like staring at a mountain and how am I going to move that mountain? So, Andy said it really well in the keynote yesterday when he talked about creating the imperative. And we created a whole lot of small bite-sized imperatives and challenged the teams to move 50 applications. So we did the 50 and 50 application that he was talking about, although we only really did 30. And challenging people to go and hire entire teams in a period of time or to migrate their organisational models within a fixed amount of times. And by creating those bite-sized imperatives, we were able to really dig into those challenges.
And how did you handle the changes in the processes that you mentioned? How did you guys go about getting people to work differently?
Yeah, well, that was embedding the culture is difficult. So number one, we had to bring in a culture of ownership. The outsourcing model had really created a culture of, it's the outsourcer. If we had an incident, it was the outsourcer, it wasn't us, right? If everything's really expensive and really difficult, that's the outsourcer, right? It's not us. So we had to totally change that. And by creating that service team model, that really gave people a sense of ownership. It made them look at the particular services that they were responsible for like a small business. And that's how we framed it to them. You are a small business. This is your part of the business. You are responsible. Whether you use a third party to perform this or whether you do it internally, you are both responsible and accountable for getting the work done. So, that was one of the real challenges. Another challenge was keeping the bank safe, right? As we made these massive amount of changes, both our board and our regulator were rightly very concerned about us keeping the bank safe. So we had to create a whole series of frameworks and control mechanisms that allowed us to do this in a really well-organized way, even though it was thousands of people involved, by bringing in a new standard that we call CAST, which is our Cloud Adoption Standards and Techniques, which had literally hundreds of both controls, standards, which were what we wanted people to achieve, and the technique was how we wanted them to achieve it. And by actually making sure that we couldn't migrate a single application to the cloud without having internal audit go right through this check and say, yes, you have actually completed all of these things, so we will now let you move your application to the cloud. That was a real challenge.
How did you keep everybody on board? How did you enlist the folks to go on the journey with you?
I think it was explaining the outcomes, right? Explaining the fact that we needed to be relevant. Explaining the fact that our customers expect us to look and feel like an Apple or an Amazon or a Google or something. They don't expect us to look and feel like a bank of 10 years ago. So really giving that out there. This concept of the small business with the service teams, I think that really got people on board. Right? That gave them a real sense of ownership. This is mine. I'm accountable. If anything goes wrong, it's my head on the block, rather than this is a big organization and there are plenty of people to blame. Another way we did it was take away a lot of the manual process. By automating a lot of things, even our service management, we automated the operational processes, the governance framework. We created automated governance, and we called them invisible guardrails that let people develop applications or perform operational processes without knowing that they were actually performing all of these checks. In the old world, there were people with clipboards that had to go around and do all this compliance and check everything, and of course, that's only relevant for the next day and a half before something changes in the environment. And it's insanely boring, right? People hated doing it, so quite often they didn't. Our backups, our patching, again, automating those things created an environment where people could actually get on and do the things that they were really interested in rather than all of these mundane tasks. And I think that was a massively motivating factor as well.
That's great. And Steve, tell us a little bit about the benefits and the outcomes that you guys have experienced through your journey.
Yeah, well, I think number one would be resilience. Our customer impacting incidents are down 42% on last year, and that was down about 40% on the previous year. So as the transformation goes in and we automate more and we move things to cloud, which by its nature is a lot more resilient, you can architect to be a lot more resilient. By re-architecting a lot of our applications so that they're loosely coupled and the blast radius is contained, we have really reduced the impact of incidents on our customers. I think the agility is improved. So as we've automated a lot of things, we have made it so that we can meet the needs of our customers in a reasonable amount of time. And by removing all of those manual processes, we've actually improved the way we perform our governance because it's automated. We've been able to actually reduce our costs significantly as well, just through the nature of automation. And we just created a far more streamline and relevant set of processes for people to work in every day.
What kind of magnitude, I'm curious, on the cost savings are you looking at? What did you guys experience?
Yeah, a lot. It's really, it depends which part of the business you're talking at. So the insourcing in particular, that, when we turned that on its head and we brought a lot of these things in-house and automated, we were able to about half the size of the workforce. And a lot of it was just because all the processes were old and the outsourcers really hadn't changed. They hadn't been motivated to change in 10 to 20 years. So that in itself created a massive saving. And then, of course, just the cloud technologies, the elasticity, the building the dev environment and turning it off when you're not using it. All of those sorts of aspects also drove much better cost.
Did you have any setbacks along the way?
Oh yeah, we had a lot. You can't do something this big without setbacks. We got a lot of things wrong, right? So I think one of the things that really slowed us down was we tended to take a bit of a broad approach to everything when we started. You know, the new processes, DevOps, Agile, CI/CD, all these things were magic, right? And they would just solve all of our problems. And that actually turned out not to be the case, right? We found we actually had to go to this two-speed model where for applications that we'd written ourselves and put out there ourselves, DevOps, pipelines, work great. But for stuff we've bought off the shelf, yep, that model didn't work, right? So that's one where we had to actually invent this sort of more traditional model of operations, but with a lot of automation involved. So things like automated changes, where we identified our top 50 changes and we automated them, so that now it didn't involve change boards and people getting up at 2 in the morning to perform these changes and making mistakes, which then led to incidents. This allowed us just to be a lot smoother. But in that first stage where we got that wrong, we actually created a lot of impact to the business.
What advice would you have for folks in the room that are embarking or about to embark on a transformation of the scale that you guys accomplished?
Yeah, I would say, number one, be pragmatic, right? So again, this model of one size fits all just doesn't apply in a large enterprise. You need to actually look at the particular applications, the services, and how they're operated, what they're built on, how old they are, how much inertia they have, and then actually fit an operational model to that, rather than just doing this broad stroke. I would say the imperative is a super important thing, because when you go into a transformation of this size and you're trying to completely change the bank, it is a mountain. So creating these bite-sized imperatives is something that really worked for us, and I would recommend.
What's next for the bank in your transformation?
Well, it never ends, does it? I like the thought, because everyone talks about their transformation, and everyone's doing one, right? Is there anyone here that isn't doing a transformation right now? Everyone's always doing it, because you have to change. We're in a world where our customer base, and I think all of our customers collectively across the room, when your customers are changing so quickly, right? As the whole world changes so quickly, if you're not transforming continually, you're just not. You're sitting still, and your customers will continue to move. So the whole concept of a transformation, I think we need a better name that doesn't have this feeling of a beginning and an end.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve, so much. I really appreciate all that insight.
You're welcome.
Good luck to you. All right, so if I had a band here like Andy had, we'd be playing Nirvana right now in the next topic, okay? The next theme to driving successful transformation is about modernizing in a way to free resources, okay? Sounds too good to be true. The concept here is a flywheel. And for those of you, we call this the transformation flywheel. Those of you who understand the concept of flywheel, it's basically getting started, right? Getting started with a process or a mechanism and capability. And then as you continue to iterate through that process, it builds speed. In our case, what we're talking about is building capability, building artifacts, real content, real IP, automations, things like that, patterns, and then accelerating through it over and over again across many teams, each of which may own a particular set of applications or outcomes. So let me walk you through how this works. So we start with the concept that the outcome we seek is not migration. The outcome we seek is production operations of our applications in the cloud. And we seek that, and that really is the outcome. We want it to be safe, secure, available, and then we want to be in a position to modernize it efficiently and build momentum from there. So let's start with migration. So we start small, maybe a handful of applications, probably not critical applications. We start by helping a customer with landing zones, with patterns, with ingestion tools and capabilities, tools that they can use to get quickly started in getting that application to the cloud. Once in the cloud, there's the opportunity to do some quick optimization, take advantage of some auto-scaling groups, turn things off and on, start to write automations for patching or possibly DR. These are really important. This builds confidence. Team starts to build skills. You start putting points up on the board. Next, what you soon see is modernization. A migration factory also emerges because you're capturing all these learnings, and the more you go through this, that migration factory becomes more efficient and more effective and a self-sustaining mechanism for you. And then you're in the modernization phase, which is where you're breaking down those monolithic applications into components and services, starting to use some cloud-native capabilities. And next thing you know, the team starts to think about new offerings, new capabilities. You might have created a data lake here. You might have applied some analytical capabilities. You might be using some of the SageMaker AI/ML capabilities at this point in time. Next thing you know, you're introducing new applications. Now imagine this flywheel, just one small team with 5 applications going through that curve. And even if it takes a whole year to get around that journey for those applications, that by the time you get to the end, the next time through it's 6 months, the next time through is a month, and then the thing takes off. And imagine the teams around your company all in the same flywheel at different paces, sharing some of the same content, some of the same learnings, but really owning and focusing on their outcomes, their applications, their microservices that they're delivering. So that's the concept of a transformation flywheel. And here to talk more about their transformation flywheel is Simon Hornby from Thomson Reuters. Simon, join us.
Hey, thanks, John. Great to be here.
Thanks, Simon. Nice to have you here. So Simon, tell us a little bit about Thomson Reuters.
So, well, first of all, Thomson Reuters is the provider of trusted news and information to a number of different types of professionals. So, you know, the legal, tax and accounting, we've got media, we've got government and compliance. And, you know, as an overall organization, we operate in over 100 countries. We've got nearly 30,000 employees. And from our history perspective, we date back to Reuters in 1851. And you know, from that perspective, the way that we distributed news back in 1851 was through carrier pigeons. So as we roll on 165 years, Thomson Reuters announced that they're going down a cloud-first strategy. Now, the cloud-first approach was all about refactoring applications. It was a journey that was going well. It was a transformation journey that would have taken an incredibly long time. And then in Q3 of 2018, Thomson Reuters divested a rather large part of our business. It was a financial division. And with that, we got an opportunity to accelerate our cloud journey, not through refactoring, but through rehosting our applications. The reason why we had to go down this path, you know, with divestitures, we really lost the data centers as part of this deal. So we had 2 years to get out of the data centers, and we really called this, you know, our eviction notice.
Nice, nice. So help me understand it. Can you size the problem? I'll put a slide, some background here for you. Size the problem that you're talking about.
Yeah. So the numbers are there for everyone to see. I'm going to put some flavor around these numbers. So the 411 applications, it's a larger number of applications that we're transforming. But it's not just that. These are in those 100 locations that we operate in. The applications, we went across the broad spectrum of our applications, of our application groups. They're in all corners of the world. So that made, a real challenge to us as an organization to be able really to operate and create a program that would really handle that. So we've also, from the number of assets that we had, having 10,000 of the same assets would have been fine, right? But we didn't. I think we're probably like every other organization out there where we had every single flavor of operating system. We had every single version of that flavor of operating system. We had operating systems that were coming up to end of service life, so we had to make a decision on that. Our databases, again, we had a very broad spectrum of our database versions, flavors. From our database migration, we had, our data migration, we had databases from 5 gigabytes to 25 terabytes. With that, just different challenges, different patterns that were required in order for us to deliver our program. Now, we also had, the way that Thomson Reuters has evolved, mainly through acquisition, mergers, acquisitions, and divestitures. With it, there's very different architectural challenges that we had as an organization. And with that, having 7 globally dispersed data centers, what we found was that the approach that people had, around their resiliency model, in terms of, are they just located in EMEA, in APAC? Are they, every part of the globe? These are all considerations that we had to think. And last but not least, we had 2 years. And that really was the fundamental driver for the program. And for 2 reasons. First of all, it was going to be eye-wateringly expensive if we were going to extend past the 2 years in terms of the transitional services agreement. But there was also, and this was what the part I really loved, that we had an incentive program to accelerate, to get out early. So the program that we created really did have that focus on speed of execution so that we could start, saving some money.
That's great. And tell me a little bit about, I know you had some principles and key tenets as you guys started on this transformation. Tell me a little bit about that.
So, yeah, and again, with a program the size that we had, the key here was to be able to put some governance around the program, but to be able to devolve a lot of the responsibility into the application teams, because we were never going to do this by controlling it in the center and driving it in that way. And so we created a number of, I think we called them guardrails, but they were pretty critical to us. Just with the nature of our business, we had to have absolute focus on our service. Our customers were not willing for us to drop our service level, to drop our guard during this migration. To them, we caused this. So we had to behave and we had to operate in the right manner as we went through this transition. But also, there was absolutely no compromise on security. And that was absolutely critical to us. It was very critical to our security group as well. But we needed to maintain that confidence that the application groups and our customers had in the way that we were operating. And then finally, which I started with, that it was a cloud-first strategy. We were not going to move all this footprint into more data centers when we had this opportunity to move into the cloud.
So, obviously a massive project, massive scale, a lot of people involved, lots of moving parts. What were the challenges that you guys encountered? Yeah,
so 2 major challenges that I'll touch on. I know there's a number up there, but the key ones for us, first of all, how we deliver the program. We were never going to be able to do this by, almost a monolithic type waterfall program. It just wasn't going to work. We needed to be more agile. I know we use that term a lot, but we really needed, as an example, we had 30 plus patterns that we needed to create as part of this program. So, our application teams didn't want to wait until all 30 patterns had been created. They wanted the minimal viable product so that they could start coding, they could start building their application, so we could almost unlock some velocity. So the teams would get going, but they also needed that confidence that we're iterating, so that by the time they're going into production, that the pattern was fully baked, it was ready, it was it had the service wrapper around it, and so that's really how we operated for that. Now the second area that is really important for us was around the cultural shift. So we had groups within Thomson, and we do still have groups within Thomson Reuters, that are just very different in their skill set that they have. So you've got the data center centric operations teams and application teams, to the teams who are just rolling out, refactoring applications at will. And what we needed to do, because we decided on a rehost strategy, was to try and bring the groups together, right? So there was compromises on both sides, but we brought the teams together, so that they would deliver. And the key here was migrate first, transform later, right? And we kept reiterating that because we just were not going to be in a position to refactor 400 applications in 2 years. And I just don't know what organization would be able to, because on top of this, there is prioritization within every business. They can say this is the number one priority, but there's stuff on top of it that just gets in the way and starts changing people's focus. So those were the challenges that I would like to raise.
So as we look at some of the kind of numbers on your progress today, I know you guys aren't complete yet, but what do these numbers tell you, and how do you gain confidence from where you are today in your transformation?
It almost feels like my report card. So the decision to use AMS was absolutely clear in the fact that we wanted as an organization, as a program, to focus 100% on our application migrations. We did not want to be able to be in a position where we had to migrate our tools and processes. And as an organization, and I don't think we'll be dissimilar to other large enterprises out there. We had over 170 tools, processes, procedures that we would have had to have made a decision. Which ones are going to go to the cloud? Which ones do we not need? Do we long line them for other locations? And then AMS came, and I think it was this time last year where a group met, probably with yourself, John, and it really was that opportunity for us to be able to hand that off in essence to AMS. And so going to this view that we have, and the yellow line shows the manual tasks that are, or the manual changes that are carried out within AMS, but the blue shows us the automated changes, and this is to me really just represents how the program has gone. So we started off slow. The change was naturally just probably quite low down. I think we've worked it out, it was about 68% was automated change. But what happens, and you get into this journey, that you move forward, and with AMS, you're partnering to build up the automation. So to the point now where I think we've got 10 times the level of change. That's reflective of where we are as a program, right? But we're also at 98% automated, and that's required. So just for, I think the last 2 weekends we've done 38 cutovers, right? We would not have been able to do 3 cutovers, right, if we didn't have this level of automation. And we're almost taking it for granted now. This automation is happening. I don't know, there's no drama, right? And it's important that, as you're going through this journey, in terms of rehosting, in terms of AMS, it's hard work. It doesn't start, perfectly. That you have to iterate, you have to partner as an organization, with AMS, with ProServe, and we use ProServe very well on this, to create that model that would take us to where we are today.
And you had many partners, too, involved in that?
Yeah, with multiple partners involved.
Great. So tell us a little bit about the benefits, learnings, and outcomes with your transformation.
So going back to the delivery model that I said earlier, the trajectory when we were probably 3 or 4 months in was really not where we wanted to be. And the piece that we looked at, and again, this was with partnering, and we were very inclusive to make sure that, you know, the model that we developed was the right model. And you know, we failed a few times, and we failed fast a few times, and we kept moving, we kept changing the model, and it was the right thing to do. And then eventually we got to an approach, and I think we brought in a number of key principles to this agile delivery model, which was that we would fix forward versus rolling back, right? So even if, you know, things aren't going quite well, we would stick with it, right? We'd also, we felt that our decision making was taking too long. So, you know, with that, we started, you know, time boxing our decisions. Really simple things, but they really put some focus and governance and controls on our program. And, you know, and then finally, and we developed a model where we brought people face to face to workshops, and it was about getting the best use of people's time. So people are coming together. We had people from AMS, we had people from, you know, experts from within ProServe. We had all the experts from around the organization who would come together with very aggressive targets, right? And we would go in, and it was an amazing experience because these teams would really feed off each other. They'd worked together for maybe 15 years on the phone. These email requests were going all the way around the globe and coming back, please verify, and then it would go round again. And just been bringing people together. There's a cost to an organization, there's a cost to a program, but it's a cost worth taking. And that really unlocked the velocity for Thomson Reuters. And like you say, we're in a position now where, you know, the acceleration has happened. You know, we're 60% of the way through our migration cutovers. We are going to be in a position where we finish the program early, which I don't think we would have even got close to thinking about probably in January. I think at that point, I think it was, let's finish it. So,
thank you so much, Simon. I really appreciate that, telling us that story, that journey. Good luck on finishing that program. Thank you. Okay, see if I can bring this home with you guys. So you know, when you think about a transformational journey of your business, and you think about the challenges that you're facing, the conversation that Andy had yesterday on main stage about having that mandate, that commitment, and then just getting started and iterating. I mean, that really is a theme that we've seen across thousands of customers that have done this successfully. It's really building that culture of innovation, getting the right people, organize the problem the right way, thinking about your processes focused on the outcomes, and thinking about leveraging your architecture, not just to address net new applications, but how are you going to modernize the applications to really get your technical debt under control, and then reskilling the people and your teams in a fun way, in an exciting way, is definitely a key part of what we see with success. And then modernizing your applications in a way that starts small and then accelerates and captures the learnings in a way that can be shared can be shared across independent teams, working loosely coupled, but very quickly and moving at a pace that fits their application and their customer set. We believe these are the answers to help you successfully drive your transformation. And as I said, AWS's customer enablement teams are here to help you. Our training and certification team are really good at helping you skill your team. They work with partners to get scale and breadth, and they've got all sorts of programs and capabilities to help you drive training, education, and certification into your organization. Our professional services team and through our extended partners that they work with can give you advisory services, migration capabilities, modernization plans, and innovation plans. They're very good at that and can help you move very quickly. Obviously, I'm the GM for Managed Services at AMS. We're here to help you operate your applications once they're in the cloud so that you can focus on your differentiated aspects to modernize those applications and move and drive innovation and move at a pace and leveraging our best practices on security, some of the basic operation capabilities in driving automation. AWS IQ is a third-party marketplace of deep subject matter expertise that you can tap into. And obviously our APN network of certified partners is one of the largest networks in the world today. Deep certification capabilities across AWS, across all of these factors, leveraging all these services to help you be successful in your transformations. So I guess I got 2 calls to action for you as you're at reInvent. This is a great time for it. First thing I'd ask you to do is take a look at our cloud readiness assessment. It's a simple form that you complete, and we process that information, taking insights from all the best practices and capabilities, and we bring back to you a report and a plan as to a recommendation on how you might drive a migration and modernization plan within your enterprise. If you want to go a lot faster, break some glass, learn by experience, we have a 50 and 50 program. You heard Steve talk about that. Even Simon was leveraging that plan, which is how can we help you with your team, with our partners, move 50 applications in 50 days into production in the cloud and operate them for you. We have found incredible outcomes and acceleration benefits with customers on both of these programs. Hopefully these will help you. So with that, thank you so much for your time today. I hope this was helpful for you. Please take a look at the survey. Give us your feedback. Really interested in learning more from you. Thank you so much.